And here we go. Welcome to Stick to F1 Live. We'll do it live. Fuck it.
I ever hear that countdown every single time. It's like I feel like I'm getting ready for we're going to war or something.
Yeah, we're launching something. We're back from the summer break. It's episode 14 of season 2 of Stick to F1. Anthony Mangione, Jason Martinez. Let's put our names up there so people can identify us if they have no clue who the fuck we are.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello.
So back from the summer break, it's felt like a really, really long time that F1's been away. And I hate relying on just baseball. Like, I'm so dead on baseball, but that's a whole rant for another day. But it feels like it's been an eternity since we've watched a live F1 FP practice or qualifying. And the weather in Satellite is changeable this weekend.
Here we go again.
Yeah,
welcome to the Ardennes.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one case to make for canceling this race, that's the only one I would be able to make. But that's what makes Spa though.
It's the truth. I mean, you're in that section of Europe, and there's always this time of year. You always have to worry about the weather. Heck, I mean, the following week you also have Zandvoort. You can potentially get whatever weather you might get off the beach line there as well. So that's the risk that's involved.
Do we have 3 straight weeks, by the way?
What's that?
Do we have races in 3 straight? Is it this week is Spa, next week is Zandvoort, and then they go right to Monza?
I think it's usually a triple header. They usually go because when they're away, they want to get right back in the groove.
Yeah.
And
it is the Europe, 4th Netherlands, and then Monza the 11th.
Yeah, it's relatively quick travel to get the cars in and across and get that triple header and get things rolling. And it's, again, as we always know, 3 distinctly different courses. Spa is Spa. You'll get the high speed, but good technicalities with it. But then you'll get follow it with Zandvoort, which again presents its own below sea level challenges. And then you go to the Temple of Speed after that.
And then there's actually 2 weeks between Monza, 2 weeks with no Grand Prix between Monza and Singapore.
That's not surprising. I mean, that's all, big, it's first time since 2019. So
it's like 3 weeks between races. It's another summer break.
Almost. Yeah. It's almost like another break in between. It's going to kind of spread things out a bit and getting it back in Singapore. Now you want to talk about feeling like forever since they've been there.
And then Suzuka too.
And then Suzuka followed that up with, you got the incredible technical, we all know Singapore, you barely ever can go full throttle on the streets there. And then you get to Suzuka, which is its own wonderful, I can't wait, watching videos of previous races at Suzuka and wanting to see how these beasts handle that figure of 8.
The other thing, both of those tracks, Suzuka and Singapore, single DRS tracks, only one DRS zone. The pitch straight at Singapore, and then
you have 2. No, there's the other. There's 2. You have the other one after you come after you get from when you cross the bridge and you have that really. As soon as you cross the bridge, you got to hit the brakes and turn. There's another DRS zone that
there is okay
straight. There's 2 at Singapore, and
only one at Japan. That's Suzuka. That's the main straight.
You got the main straight, and
there's not one through Spoon and 130R, is there?
No, it's interesting because the other straight does not definitely. Does that one, the other straight? When you're getting ready to hit before, and then you hit that curve flat out across the bridge. You're going across the to go under bridge to go. You got under that doesn't, but above it.
Yeah,
you're going across that bridge.
Yeah,
check to see the zone from that. But those are their own individual challenges.
Yeah, those 2 are away in the future. We've got Spa-Francorchamps right in front of us, the Belgian Grand Prix, and it feels like an eternity because of the summer break. It feels like an eternity because last year's Grand Prix didn't happen. Essentially, they had a couple laps under safety car, and as everybody's kind of going off the track and under those safety car runs, it was like, okay, this is pretty apparent. This is too dangerous. And Max got a half points victory for that. Lando, I think ended up on a podium for that, or George, somebody did.
No, George. That was George's first ever point. Yeah,
Yeah.
first ever podium.
Nikita Mazepin actually had the fastest lap. Did you know that?
Yeah, I remember that actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember about Lando was Lando completely destroyed his car.
Yeah, in quali.
He absolutely obliterated his car in quali, and then they just they started that thing, and it was just a disaster. I'm gonna be curious again. I know they said they got some activities planned with the drivers to kind of quote unquote make up for the cancellation.
Oh, that's good. And the people that
I know there's
pay good money.
Something, yeah. So that should be fun. And then
did you see the new grandstand at Eau Rouge?
Yeah, I have.
That looks odd. Like, tell me that wouldn't be just the greatest place to sit in the world.
Oh yeah, and you got the runoff area, which they've kind of reminds me a little bit because it's sort of bumped out, colored like a little bit like Paul Ricard.
Yeah.
But it's obviously much less of that versus it's not the same kind of kaleidoscope effect that Paul Ricard.
But it's grippier.
It is, and the hope is that in this circumstance that'll slow if they go across there, it'll slow them down a little bit because of how crazy
obliterated tire. I'll know that.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, my biggest concern obviously is the fact this has been enough of a discussion, and we should certainly point on is that we may not have we may not have Spa next year. Although I know Stefano Domenicali wasn't completely out of the. There's a lot of races that they got going on next year, and the big thing, and it's interesting because again, the Dutch Grand Prix has kind of become the threat now for the Belgian Grand Prix because they're like, well, we have a Northwestern Europe race there. Yeah. And Zandvoort has improved itself immensely in terms of it being, once again, being a modern F1 facility. Spa has done a lot of things as well. But again, you always have the logistics of how to get in there.
And you're in the mountains.
Yeah, you're in the Ardennes Forest, and that's the part to me. I don't think any of the racers want to see it go. I know Lando specifically was like, kind of like, it's all about money. And I'm like, yes, we know that's the sport, Lando. But at the same time, there's also, I always think about this also with Lando is the fact that his mother's Belgian. So I think that's probably
he grew up there in Summers. I heard him say on Beyond the Grid.
Yeah, so for him, I think it would be the same. Like once you get in that conversation with Charles Leclerc about Monaco and saying, well, maybe Monaco, it's outlived it, and you're gonna get Charles stamping his foot on the table, going no, and obviously not at least until he wins one.
Yeah,
but I'm sure Lando, for him, other than the British Grand Prix, I'm sure he'd love the opportunity to win the Belgian Grand Prix based off of his background, his family.
Yeah, and I've gone back over this past week and change and watched a bunch of Belgian Grand Prix from the last couple of years. I never fully watched the 2019 Belgian Grand Prix. That was when Antoine Hubert died that weekend.
Yeah.
And Charles Leclerc won that race. That was his first race win. He went on to win at Monza the week after. But that was a great one. Max was out on the first lap after coming together at La Source with Kimi Räikkönen, and he broke a track route on his steering, had no steering, and went over a Rouge and just basically kept going straight into the wall.
Yeah.
As Martin Brundle was saying, right to the scene of the accident. But Max has never won there.
No, he hasn't. He has not. It's something I'm kind of conscious of going into this into the race this weekend. It's the fact that I'm sure it's a massive motivating factor for him, even though he's.
Oh, well, he technically, I guess, won last year.
Yeah,
I don't count that.
Well, if we're going to call it a full-on race,
he didn't win.
There's a good chance he could have won. I mean, there's a good chance he would have won that race.
Yeah, but leading at that track is not the desired position for the most part until you cross the start-finish line before La Source.
Yeah, it's just the way it's designed too. You have to really sort of angle the car to really kind of butt the other car off the road before you commence that hard right turn and get it in there. If you get a good jump, again, everything's about, but again, last year with just the conditions and everything and the weather being what it is, and if it's wet again, it's another potential for a real problem because everybody wants to jump quick, but it's a short run right to that first turn.
I mean, like in 2012 when Pastor Maldonado jumped 4 rows of cars because he kind of jumped off the line.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, I watched that one last night
because it's just it's a weird. I just have to think from the driver's perspective. It's just one of those things where you want to go gung ho right from jump, but it's like you don't have far to go before everybody's got to drop it.
It's 300 meters to the source.
Exactly. You're like, so you're not even
a U-turn.
You're not touching that. You're not going to be touching the overtake function on the car until you finish that turn and you start making your shit and start heading down the straight.
I mean, Jenson Button in 2012 dominated the race. I mean, he was out 4 seconds, 3 laps in once they got back underway. And I watched that one. I watched 2013, which was Sebastian Vettel, which was a great race. I watched 2014, Danny Rick's win. We're going to get to him in a moment. And I watched the Leclerc one from 2019, and I watched 2018 Vettel again. What a race that was! So I'm looking forward to. I'm so excited about Spa.
Yeah,
it's just I just love everything about it. From just how grueling of a track it is, how long it is. I mean, it's over 7 kilometers, over 4.3 miles.
Yeah, longest course, as we all know, as everybody knows, longest lap in Formula One.
Yeah, I mean, wonder what this is an interesting track too, because the strategists are really put to a test here, because an undercut is even more pronounced at Spa because the lap is so long that if you stay out one extra, you could really suffer some track position. Now, there's overtaking opportunities in Sector 1 and in Sector 3, not so much in Sector 2, which is a long sector. I mean, it's a 50-second sector. Yeah. So, it's
long looping down you're making that long loop down.
Yeah. I mean, you can make moves, after you come out of Stavelot and you can get into like Blanchimont, you can make a move into the bus stop chicane. You can make a move.
The bus stop is usually where we see the big, over. Yeah. You're going to see the overtake. You hit that thing perfect, and you throw that thing into second gear, and if you have your points down just right, and the other guy's got a little less traction, you'll nail them.
Yeah. And that one's an interesting because you take them on the outside there, which turns quickly into the inside.
Yes.
It's what Kimi or Sebastian Vettel did so well in that 2018 one. He made so many moves there. I mean, just the Kemmel Straight is obviously, the slipstream is so huge in DRS. And I mean, you look at Lecombe, and then, it's just so many great corners, and there's no other corner that I like more than
you're racing. It's it's like you're climbing. That's what I love about it. Is like you've had this effect of climbing a mountain and then going down the mountain.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it looks like in person.
Well, we've talked about this before. Fernando Alonso's description of what it's like to hit Eau Rouge and Raidillon, and just how it's blind, and it's the closest thing I think he said to like feeling like you're on a rocket.
Yeah. You got to feel like you're going to fly out of your seat.
That's going to feel like.
Yeah. You got to feel like you're going to fly out of your seat as you get to the top of Eau Rouge into Raidillon, and you're cutting across the rumble strips. I mean, it's just got to be like, oh my God, hold on to your balls.
Because the problem, again, you get to the issue of, as always, we love Spa, but I would say it's the. if you're behind, you're trying to get up over the hill and there's an accident, and it's like you're there, like you're on top.
You don't see it. Yeah.
You have like not even seconds to react on that blind, and that's
that blind corner at Jeddah.
Yeah, but I mean, Spa's been around forever, and it's just like that's the one everybody talks about. It's just like if there's an accident in that spot and you're coming up the hill.
Yeah,
I always think of that image of Kimi going through the smoke.
Oh. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to watch FP 1 and 2 coming up tomorrow morning, and then the race is 9 a.m. our time on Sunday. So it's going to be fascinating. We'll get to our podium predictions coming up later in the episode. Let's get to the driver market, because there was so much news being pushed around regarding McLaren, Daniel Ricciardo, obviously Piastri, the whole spurning Alpine, and the legal battle, and F1 took the fight on. And here we are. Ricciardo is leaving McLaren. He's going to get his full freight next year. Good for him. I was really impressed with when he was asked at the driver's press conference yesterday from Spa about it and how he handled it and how Zach Brown has handled it. Look, sometimes it just doesn't work. And it wasn't from a lack of trying. It wasn't from a lack of, unprofessional behavior on either side. Mm-hmm. And they are where they are. They're going to have Piastri. Danny Rick's going to move on. I don't think he's going to Alpine.
I think it's at the moment right now, it comes down to how, if Alpine, I don't say it's much about whether Alpine, I think actually it does have something to do with Alpine wanting him. If Alpine wants him, I think they can find a way to, I think they'll find a way to make it work, because I think it's the best option for him if he still wants to be on a competitive team.
Yeah.
That's in the midfield, because
with Ocon.
Because the options, I think, for him start to become far more limited. I think Alpine, in many ways, it would be his best case scenario. The question
is there scar tissue there, though, Ant?
I'm sure there's got to be a little. I mean, I know Otmar has put on a relatively good face. No, they would certainly be interested. You're not going to cut off an option for yourself here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm sure there has to be some soreness about it. But I think if they believe that it's also going to come down to, again, and I do believe this is in Alpine's court. Again, they still have to settle things here in the high court with regards to Piastri before, because then they're going to want to get their pound of they're going
to get something out of it.
They're going to get something financial. They're going to take a chunk. They want to take a chunk out of McLaren for pulling this.
Yeah.
So and that's where things are going to
deterrence to do it in the future too.
Yeah, but I think if they've been, here's the thing, that they've been smart with their investments, Alpine, under Otmar so far, and I think that's been something that's allowed them to be able to make tweaks to that car, which has allowed them to really, take the fight to McLaren, who's underperforming obviously this year compared to last year, in this battle for P4 in the midfield battle. But I look at it from, they have to look at it from the long-term perspective. And Otmar keeps talking about his the 100 race plan, and however many 90 some races, however many races remain, 92, 93 since he's taken over. And you have to think long-term. And the question is whether or not, again, it is a mutual failure on McLaren's part and on Danny's part. He was given an opportunity. His style just, number one, didn't fit as much with last year's car, even with the victory that he had at Monza.
Yeah.
He still struggled. And then this year, he was already on the back foot with COVID at the start of the season.
Yep.
And then you go from there, and it's just new car, new weights, new things, and even more struggles. And just, I think it's very much a stylistic thing. Yeah. That however they engineer McLaren's car, it just doesn't jive with the way he likes to drive the car. So the question is going to be, whoever the new team, whatever team he goes to, is going to, I think all likelihood is, he can if he wants to make a substantial salary for next year, in addition to the 21 million, he can do it. I think Alpine could probably be able to afford it. The question is, again, Alpine was looking at Alonso on only a 1-year deal. And that's one of the reasons why Alonso left and went over to Aston Martin, because he got a multi-year deal.
Yep.
Do they offer only that same type of deal to Danny on a 1 year?
Is he interested in a 1 year?
Is he interested in a 1-year deal? Another team might turn around and be able to give him the same thing, give him a 2-year deal.
Maybe he doesn't.
Again, it'll be a lesser. I think in this case, it'll be a team where he is really, the machinery may or may not be as good, and if he's got a little. And as I've said to you before on previous shows, if he's starting to lose a little something on his fastball, that could be, he could be slipping into Kimi Räikkönen in Alfa Romeo territory very quickly and underperform.
Yeah. He said he doesn't want to race anywhere else, and that if he had to sit out a year
for the right spot,
for the right spot, he would do it.
I think it comes down to whether or not, again, circling back to Fernando Alonso, does Ricardo pull an Alonso to say, I need to take a break from it? Then I know eventually, if I want to get back into it, that somebody's going to
He
want
didn't
to
sound
bring
like a guy that wants to take a break to me.
I don't think he does exactly.
Yeah, I don't think he did.
Whereas Fernando definitely looked like he was completely,
McLaren's the retirement team.
Yeah, I mean at that point, exactly. But I really do think that Danny, I think he definitely wants to be kind of he definitely wants to be in one of those 20 cars next year.
Yeah.
So that's the question right now as to where he ends up, and that's one of the reasons why I feel like if you're trying to think about things long term, I'm trying to get a bearing, Jace, on where exactly Alpine is at, because they're the key here in this whole thing in terms of that second seat with Esteban.
Yeah.
You want another veteran in it because it's familiar ground with Danny if they bring him back in. The difference is going to be Danny was unquestionably the lead guy when he was there, and he will not be any longer. It's definitely if he joins Alpine, Esteban's the one with the long term. He's the one with the long term contract here, and it would be much more of a 1A, 1B, and then potentially less than that. And that's questions whether or not that's what they want.
Danny's recent performance doesn't earn him the number one driver anywhere right now.
Things he doesn't. He has to shift, I think, himself and realize that if he wants to be on a very competitive midfield team like Alpine, he will need to have a mindset. He'll have to have a little bit of a mindset change in terms of being the ego of being the league dog and realizing, you've had 2 years now where you're not performing in that regard, then that's not going to work.
Did he fuck up? The reason why he left Red Bull was because I don't think he could fathom being the 2 to Max, this up and comer, prodigy. And he leaves there.
I think he thought it was his time to be the lead guy.
Yeah.
And then Max comes along.
Yeah, because Seb leaves. Seb leaves in what? 16. 16. 17's his first year.
Hold on.
No, wait, 15.
No, 15. Yeah, he left. Yeah, because I think he had a kind of not a great season. 14, and then and then so he was kind of
Kvyat was in that seat first, and then Max eventually took it over in Spain in 16, and got the win after Nico and Hamilton tangled on that straight and took themselves out of the race.
Right.
And Max got his first race win in his first race in the Red Bull, the parent team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in 2016. And then eventually Danny Rick ends up leaving after 2018. He wins Monaco that year. He wins Shanghai in China that year, the second race of the season. And he wins in Monaco in dramatic fashion without eighth gear half the race.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy win.
Yeah.
And then he's off the podium completely for the 2019 season when he goes to Renault.
Yeah.
Then he gets 2 podiums in 2020 in Germany, and then at Imola.
Yeah.
And then he got the race win last year, and that's been it since he's left. So
yeah, it's been ever since leaving Red Bull, it's been difficult. And I think he thought it was going to be an easier transition because they still at that point, Red Bull was, I believe, they had just announced that they were going with Honda. And that was a factor, I think, for Danny as well. I think he said that as well, was that he was familiar enough with the Renault engines being, and power units being, racing in for Red Bull with the Renault engine. That
he should have known to go nowhere near the Renault engine at that point.
I get, but listen, listen, up until that point, he had success in some form with it.
The last 2 years.
I think he thought, hey, I go to a works team and I'm going to be ready to go here, and it just kind of didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
And
well, we'll see what happens with it. I think it's going to be a fascinating.
Yeah, I think there's a decent chance that I think again, it comes down. I think if Alpine wants him, they can make it work. If Alpine doesn't want him, then the pickings get, I think, thinner. And I'm going to be very interested to see because again, the market's still open there.
Yeah, Mick goes there. I think Mick's going there.
Yeah, that's a good question. Whether or not, because Mick's out of contract now with, and if they think if Alpine really, if Alpine likes Mick, and the name is there, and it would be, and again, they may look at it and say, if Lando and Piastri are, the 2 young lions now for they may decide to say, hey, having Esteban and Mick can counter that from the young lion perspective, maybe.
Yeah. And then Haas is open, and it could be a reunion of sorts with Gunther Steiner and Danny Rick from earlier in his career.
And he made contact with him. So I think Haas is definitely going to be in play here if he doesn't end up at Alpine. then I think there's a real good chance that he does end up at Haas again, depending on what happens, obviously, with Mick.
Haas sees an Australian driver that's got a house in California.
Yep,
and it's very marketable.
He's very marketable. And every time we have a U.S. Grand Prix, the man loves to go get himself some boots.
Yes, he wants to do a shoey out of a boot,
and that's that's a point. I think that ends up becoming a big part of it as well. He is a known face. He is a known commodity amongst the the American audience. Now, obviously, thanks to Drive to Survive, and I think that's a big I think that would be seen as a big coup for Haas to bring Danny Rick in, but then he has to perform again. Yeah. To Haas's credit, I think they've done a great job this year. Doing what they've been able to do with that car. But again, when you bring a new driver in and how he handles that vehicle, that's there's always those questions.
It's funny. Let me tell you the story. I'm doing an event very early in the summer with season ticket holders for the Flyers with Eric Lindros. And it's at the skate zone, and it's in the Wings practice facility where the event is. So Eric and I are in like the rink 2 there, the hockey rink, just hanging out, waiting till we have to go on and do this whole thing. This Q&A with season ticket holders, and we're just kind of shooting the shit, and we're talking about F1. And Eric's a big F1 fan. He goes, who's the guy with the big nose? He annoys the hell out of me because he watched Drive to Survive. And he's like, he's got curly hair. I'm like,
Danny.
Oh, no. It's got to be Danny Ricciardo. And he goes, yes, I can't stand that guy.
Danny, I can see that because Danny has that sort of, he has that personality and way he sort of goes. He's a bloke.
Yeah.
The best way to describe.
Well, he's a ham. He's always hamming it up.
He's hamming it up, and he's always sort
of. Maybe that rubs Lindros the wrong way.
Yeah, I always said it's a little bit of the Italian in him there.
Yeah. So Danny Rick, if you're a hockey fan, Hockey Hall of Famer Eric Lindros is not a fan. Tone it down a bit.
That ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, pretty funny though. Yeah, it was funny that I just remembered that story that we had that conversation earlier in the summer. So
I wondered, does he like Gunter?
Yeah, I bet he does. I could see him getting along with Gunter.
Roger Nielsen.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah, Gunter's more torts than anything.
That's far more likely in this circumstance. Exactly.
Unbelievable.
Otherwise, we'd be closer to torts.
Let's get to, real quick, a bold prediction for the unofficial second half of the season. We did the 5 questions before. I actually found that notebook. From the first half, we did the 5 red light questions: best driver, biggest shock, positive, negative, who could be off the grid next year, does Ferrari sack Mattia Binotto after the season, Max locks up the title, what race? We went through those. But give me a shock prediction for the final part of this season, the remaining races. Max has got this huge lead, 258 to 178 over Leclerc. You got a shock prediction for the second half?
A shock prediction for the second half. And I'm trying to figure whether or not this is race. This would be something that will be race specific or not. Maybe not in this circumstance. I would be. I guess maybe if Red Bull had multiple DNFs on both cars down the stretch, and Ferrari maximizes the point totals and fastest laps and things of that sort. I'm not going to say necessarily a complete shot, but I think Haas actually finishes. They're not. I don't think Haas is going to drop substantially in the standings. I think they're gonna finish fairly well and finish their season better than we think they're going to.
They are 7th right now in the constructors.
Mm-hmm. And how far back are they of 6th again? So let me see.
Well, Alfa Romeo is ahead of them. They have 34 points. Does Haas? Mm-hmm. Alfa Romeo has 51, so there's 17.
Okay, I'll make a prediction here. Haas passes Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, that's they're not too far back.
That is exactly, but it would be enough of. I think it would be enough of a surprise, though. I think that if they finished up P6, especially
that'd be a huge improvement.
It would be massive, and it would be a bit of a major disappointment, I think, for Alfa as well, considering you have the pedigree of Valtteri Bottas and a pretty good young driver. And that's the other thing too. Alfa's, when we talk about the market, Alfa has to get things locked in with Zhou Guanyu as well.
Yeah.
They got to get that taken care of.
Yeah, AlphaTauri is not going to be sitting at 8th, though. I don't think either. That's been a surprise to me.
It's a surprise, but I don't know. I think that there's something off with that car.
Yeah, something. You're right.
Gasly struggled. Sonoda Sonoda's had some bad luck with it.
It hasn't looked the same as it did the last couple of years. That's for sure.
No, it has not.
Let me put this one to you before I give mine real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Alpine, Mercedes, and McLaren are all kind of Mercedes is way ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
Alpine and McLaren are separated by 4 points in the constructors. Who wins that? Who finishes ahead there? Can McLaren come back? Danny Rick with no expectations now, going out and just driving and all the bullshit in the rear view
right now. Yeah, because now I do wonder about the dynamic in the Alpine paddock. Now I really do, because
Fernando,
the Eddie interview
told everybody but the bosses.
I told everybody. I told my engineers, they knew about it. I just didn't get to Otmar, and it's like, you don't let the boss know. Fernando, he's going to do what he wants to do anyway. But I do wonder about that. But that Alpine has been but again, two pretty good drivers in this circumstance, I think, with Fernando and Esteban. And I think there's been enough doubt in that McLaren.
Collectively, though, aren't the McLaren drivers of Lando and Danny still better than Fernando and Ocon?
They haven't proven it yet this year.
Yeah, they haven't.
Well, right. Lando is the best of the bunch at the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But combining the two of them together, I trust Fernando's form more than I do Danny's.
Oh, big time. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the reason why I'm hesitant. It may be a case here where Fernando, it comes out again. Paddock dynamic is going to be key here going in. And again, if they come out of this weekend in a double point situation for Alpine, and I mean, like, we're talking like 5th and 7th or something like that, and Danny is, back in 11th while Lando's in, 6th or 4th or something like that. They're kind of holding court then at that point.
Yeah,
I mean, that's where Alpine's been. Their consistency with two drivers all year has given them that. And again, at the end of the day, I don't think Alpine just has to go head down here and say, okay, we know Fernando's leaving, but we still have the rest of this year. Still 9 races to go. Head down. We'll finish it and say au revoir after to each other after everything's over.
Like, more immediately right in front of us, when you look at obviously Spa this week, and then in a couple of weeks you've got Monza. The Alpine's got great straight line speed. The McLaren does not.
It doesn't, it doesn't, and that's my biggest concern right now. I think when we talk about McLaren, I mean, as much as exciting as what they were able to do last year, that was last year's car, a completely different generation vehicle. I think I'll give you a shock. Fernando Alonso wins Monza.
Oh, that would be sick.
There we go. I'm going to put it down now. That's it. You want a shock? I'll give you that one.
Oh, that may be a drunk episode for this podcast.
That one will be like, I mean, because let's face it, other than, Charles in previous races to that, the recent pattern of Monza has provided some wacky things to happen.
Gasly in 2019.
Gasly
wins that when they closed
2020.
Or 2020, yeah. They closed pit road and Hamilton goes down and takes himself out of that one.
It's just because of the nature of that course, and even Kimi getting on pole prior to that, when we literally had Hamilton, I think it was this 18. There may have been 7. I'm trying to think what year it was. This was probably 17. This is Kimi's last year, where literally you had Hamilton on provisional pole, followed by Vettel on provisional pole, and then right behind Vettel, here comes Kimi Räikkönen. With
Kimi blows one out. Yeah,
with I think it's still the record lap there. I'm not sure. I may be wrong on that, but I may have been at least at that point, it was the record lap. Wow. That was like part of Kimi's last stand at Ferrari, and it was just insane. But Monza invites this kind of insanity.
Yeah, and then obviously what happened last year, Max and Lewis just kind of taking each other out, and whoever's fault you think it is.
There's something wild that happens at that first chicane because everybody's just coming in at such an
insane amount of speed.
One guy trying to race the other, coming out of the pit lane, and we got what we got last year, and that opened the door for McLaren in that circumstance to have a Dream 1-2, and whether however this thing has ended up, it's not. Zach Brown's never taken that tattoo off his arm. I know that.
Yeah. Well, here's my bold prediction. And don't mistake my bold prediction for something that I want to happen, because I don't. But this is my bold prediction that Ferrari does not finish 2 in the constructor. Mercedes does.
At the pattern of it is not exactly, wouldn't be shocking, because they have to come in and Ferrari's got to prove it. They got to get they have to be better with their decision. They have to be better with their decision making during races. You can't have unforced errors.
Yep.
You just can't. And
Mercedes is poised for a huge second half here.
I think Mercedes is going to probably win 1 or 2 races towards the end of the year. I think one of them. I think
Singapore.
I think Singapore has a good chance of that. I would like, there's other. Japan might also potentially play to their favor a little bit as well.
Better not have porpoising there.
We get to
Imagine
Brazil.
going through spoon.
Yeah, Brazil. They've dialed that again. We haven't talked about porpoising in a while, have we?
Yeah, we have.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think porpoising is now the issue that it was earlier in the year, which is following
like Baku,
Mercedes, right? Exactly, and following Mercedes' form since then.
Yep.
I think there's a very good chance. I think that Mercedes finishes P2 in this thing, and Ferrari doesn't. It'd be a shame, again, considering how the season started. That being said,
considering the machinery, the car they built.
The car, I love the 75. I love the 75 for Ferrari.
Yeah.
It's just this is sort of the first year where they're really kind of back in a championship fight. It's been a long while for them, and they're showing the rust in that respect. And I think again, Charles he hasn't been in this kind of a situation before, where he's really in this kind of a fight.
The other part of my prediction is that Leclerc doesn't finish second in the driver's standings.
Now that's the part there. Again,
I think it's Sergio does.
Yeah, that would be that would really kind of lot that and then if Sergio wins it, then it really, we're getting into, it gets very anticlimactic at the end of the season. I remember you asked me about when does Max lock in the title, and I figure
you said Mexico. I think it's USA.
Mexico, possibly as soon as the U.S. Grand Prix.
Coda.
I went on the conservative side and said Mexico to at least give it a three race, at least three races before. But I mean, Red Bull might have if Checo gets his form and really.
Does he win another race this year, Checo?
That's possible. I could see it. Yeah.
I mean, won Monaco.
Yeah. He won Monaco again, but his form was kind of slipping a little bit as we got to the summer break, and now we'll see where he's at coming back in. He got a little bit of the
helmet.
He got a little bit of the helmet. He got a little bit of the helmet treatment. Like we all kind of expected from Dr. Marco. And I
give you something to think about during the summer break there.
Always. He's the old schoolmaster. It seems like that helmet. But I think the shock of Red Bull really sort of locks this thing down even sooner than we expect. I mean, if it's like you don't want this thing to be turned really anticlimactic towards the end of the season.
That's not good for
5 races left. And Max is. But listen, that could happen. I mean, for Max, I don't think anybody's touching Max for the title, for the driver's title this year. Kind of makes this one a little bit weird because again, he wins the title last year. It does relax him, as we talked about it. But I do wonder, had he not won the title last year, he would have come in this year like with his hair on fire.
Yeah, his driving this year is so much more mature.
He is. He's got a lot of confidence.
I think it's the rivalry, too. This year has been more Leclerc than it has been Hamilton. And you're trying to knock down a 7-time, F1 champion. That's different.
And you're going to push it to the absolute.
Who's not a contemporary.
Yeah, and they've talked about how all this has been so much more respectful this year. I'm like, because you guys are in the driver's seat. No kidding.
Yeah.
And you know the other team, quote unquote, being respectful, keeps shooting itself in the foot over and over again. So it's gonna be they're not.
It's more cordial.
It's more cordial. They're a challenge during the race, but you know that they're gonna screw. You're counting.
Look out for this weekend though, because if Ferrari's got insane pace, we know that the strength of Red Bull is straight line speed. So this track definitely plays to them.
Yes,
but I think Charles is going to be very aggressive.
Oh, absolutely. Max. I mean, they both have to, him and Carlos.
No quarter given here.
They can't. They have no margin for error left that they even even want to have a sniff of the constructors.
Yeah. Let's get to the pick the podium. Belgian Grand Prix. Yeah. Go 3, 2, 1. Who do you got coming in third?
See, George showed pretty good form last year on this course, and I am willing to actually give him yet another podium. I'm going to I'm going to put him in a 3.
Interesting.
Yeah, P2 for this race. I think it will be Max, and I'm going to go with Charles winning the race to kind of give Ferrari a little bit of hope here. But again, going over to Holland.
So does Leclerc get the extra point too? Does he get a fastest lap point here, or does that get pipped by a Checo late pit stop?
Yeah, because he
check it on softs.
Get on the softs. Exactly. Maybe he gets it stolen from him. He needs the fastest lap for sure.
He needs them all. Yeah.
He needs every single point he could squeeze out. I'm going to say Charles is also able to get the fastest lap.
All right. So you got Leclerc, Max, George Russell is your podium. I have Leclerc coming in third. And once again, strategy is going to be in play, and it's going to fuck them because that's what it's done all year.
Yep.
P2, I've got Lewis Hamilton. He's going to be 4 or 5 seconds adrift.
It's a very original. Yeah, I was going to say we have Charles this time, so you have Lewis at 2. Okay, because
and then I got Max winning.
Yeah. And you have Max winning the race.
Yeah, I have Max. This is almost comfortable for him because I just think the straight line speed, he can hold off overtakes down the Kemmel Straight. It's too hard to overtake in sector 2.
Yeah,
and then going down the hill, I think that I just think he's going to be too strong here. I mean, when he gets into, once you get through Puhan, there's no opportunity to overtake until you get to Blanchimont, and then he's in too much straight line speed again.
Yeah.
So I just don't see how.
Comes down again. If Ferrari can not bleep it up, not screw it up, they might be able
But then again, changeable conditions too could play here, but Max is great in the rain.
Right.
Lewis is great in the rain.
Yeah. That could be a huge
the
weather is absolutely a huge factor and could be a mitigating factor. We might get a Lando Norris maiden victory here for all we know.
Yeah, and the other
or George. Maybe George.
Just quali is in the rain.
Yeah.
And like a guy like Max loses it and can't get out of Q2.
Yeah.
You don't know. That's the thing. You don't know about that. That's the variable of Spa-Francorchamps in the Belgian Grand Prix. Yeah. Well, it's gonna be fascinating. So
we laugh at ourselves afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait. We'll break it down next week and we'll preview Zandvoort and the Netherlands race coming up the following weekend, and then we'll do it again.
Like we'll get to that in the Monza. Think about it. If you think about it, this is the Max double, right? Because he's got a lot of fans in Belgium because I think he does have Belgian.
Oh yeah, his mother's from Belgium.
As well. Yeah, he's got Belgian blood the same way as.
This was his home race before they went to Zandvoort.
Right, exactly.
And the Orange Army will be in full force out there,
and that could be a lot. That could be something that kind of puts additional pressure on the Charles, but I think at the same time you can also channel that energy too to basically kind of stick your middle finger up at them.
So real quick, my last thing, because I've seen people tweeting this, stuffy F1 fans. Oh, they got to stop letting the Verstappen fans light off the flares and the orange smoke. No. You know why? Because you didn't say the same thing at Imola this year when the Tifosi had the red smoke going like you wouldn't believe.
Fine. If they want to do it,
they can
see.
At
soccer matches. They still do them at soccer matches,
yes.
At least at the start of
it's uniquely European. I love it.
If they want to do it, that's fine. And as long as that's the extent of the fanaticism, that's fine. As long as we don't pardon my language, get any stupid shit like we got some of the previous races, with some of the reports that we heard of and
in Austria.
In Austria, which Max I know was not happy about, and so he doesn't. We want to see any of that.
Yeah, none of that deplorables.
Yeah.
Keep the deplorables
out. Root for your driver. If you want to do a light boo here for the guy you don't like, that's fine. Let's have fun. But
enjoy it. It's racing, and we're going to enjoy it. It is Spa weekend. The Belgian Grand Prix. It's back. We'll be back next week. Everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. This has been episode 14 of Stick to F1 Live. Anthony Mangione and Jason Martinez. Leave us a 5-star rating and review, and we'll talk to you next week. We'll break down Spa, and we'll preview Zandvoort. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.